What is dyslexia? Dyslexia is defined as a neurological-based disorder which interferes with the acquisition and processing of language. Varying in degrees of severity, it is manifested by difficulties in receptive and expressive language, including phonological processing in reading, writing, spelling, handwriting, and sometimes in arithmetic. Dyslexia is not a sign of low intelligence or laziness. It is also not due to poor vision. People with dyslexia can still understand complex ideas. Dyslexia is an inherited condition that makes it extremely difficult to read, write, and spell in your native language, despite at least average intelligence. Your brain takes longer to make some of these connections, and does it in more steps. It especially has trouble matching the letters you see on the page with the sounds those letters and combinations of letters make. Lenora Lockhart from Beverly Center Elementary School, who is an intervention specialist, will provide us with her own definition of what dyslexia is.
Where a student has difficulty reading because he or she reverses letters, sometimes the entire word, sometimes a lot of times it can affect how they read, how they comprehend. And years ago, people used to believe that if a child had dyslexia, then they automatically had a low IQ, and that's just not the case. It is a disability. It can hinder learning, and it often does, but it does not necessarily tie in with IQ.
We will now look at what a teacher should look for in a student with dyslexia, or possibly dyslexia. Reads slowly and painfully. Experiences decoding errors, especially with the order of letters. Shows wide disparities between listening comprehension and reading comprehension of some text. Has trouble with spelling. May have difficulty with handwriting. To continue from the previous slide, a teacher should look for exhibits difficulty recalling known words, has difficulty with written language, may experience difficulty with math computations, decoding real words is better than nonsense words, substitute small sight words for another. Kirsten English, an accessibility specialist at Merida College, will tell us what teachers should look for in students that have dyslexia.
A lot of times when a teacher is seeing a student have trouble with reading comprehension, sometimes they just think that the student is having trouble comprehending the material. But it's really a lot more than that, and they need to look at when a student turns in things with writing, they can see if they're spelling things incorrectly or having trouble with writing things out, to notice different patterns with not being able to do proper spacing in between wordings and just having problems with the writing.
We will now talk about once a child is diagnosed with dyslexia. A teacher should provide students with textbooks on tape, have direct, explicit, cumulative, intensive, and focused instruction, structured practice, more one-on-one with the student, use multi-sensored learning, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic tactile. Decoding text is the process of sounding out words. Once your child can decode individual words, she can start to make sense of entire sentences. The Davis program, which is a strategy for decoding text, uses specific, easily learned techniques to focus and sustain attention. Sensitization to internal feelings associated with perceptual errors such as letter reversals and to self-correct. A comprehension approach to reading mastery by combined studies of appearance, sound, and meaning of words. Reading practice techniques to build awareness of letter sequence, whole word recognition, and sentence comprehension.
A lot of times students who reverse letters reverse more than one letter or the same letter, sometimes numbers, and that's not exactly dyslexia. That may be, and if it's spelling, it may be dysgraphia characteristics. If they're reversing letters, they're reversing numbers and sometimes the entire words. What we see, or I should say what I see the most of here, are students who reverse the letters, but they reverse them in a forward way. For example, if the word cat they're spelling the word cat, they may make the C backwards, but make the other letters the same direction. That's typically what I see. We have had situations where they write cat, and instead of writing cat, they see it completely backwards. They start with a T, but they write it upside down. They write the A backwards, and then they write the C backwards. That is extreme, and we have seen some cases of that. But it's all the way that they process it in the brain. If it's a brain, I don't know if I can say for certain it's a brain disorder, but I have heard and read research that it starts in the brain. It's the way that they process the information. It's not necessarily that they have a vision issue. It's if it's true dyslexia, it's not a vision issue. It's
A definition for vocabulary is the ability to read a familiar word at a glance without having to sound it out. This is called word recognition. The more words kids can recognize by sight, the faster they'll be able to read. Average students can recognize about 12 words. Students with dyslexia may need to see it 40 times. Alphabet Mammals is a website that interacts with students to learn their ABCs. It provides flashcards, letters as animals, and letters as uppercase and lowercase. Students with dyslexia have a hard time with reading comprehension and text. For example, readers with dyslexia can get bogged down sounding out individual words. This interrupts the flow of information and makes it harder to understand and relate the new material to what they already know. For kids with dyslexia, reading a single word can be a struggle. Dyslexia also makes it hard to understand and remember what they read. It is essential for building a strong foundation for success in school. Below are several comprehension strategies for students while reading. Before a student reads, preview the book. Look at the title, chapter names, boldface words, and tables to figure out what they are reading. Predict. Have the students include several of the key words. Use complete sentences. Modify prediction throughout the story. While a student is reading, clarify meaning. Check during oral reading. Model or demonstrate how to use the concepts, previous words, knowledge, and dictionary to clarify text. Active reading. Read along with audio supports to increase vocabulary and reading fluency. Follow up. Oral presentations, ask questions. Make it personal and connect to the world. Below are a few recommended accommodations and modifications for students with dyslexia. Provide a quiet area for activities like reading, answering comprehension questions. Use books on tapes. Use books with large print and big spaces between lines. Provide a copy of lecture notes. Don't count spelling on history, science, or similar tests. In addition to the previous slide, a teacher should allow alternative forms for book reports, allow the use of a laptop or other computers for in-class essays, use multi-sensor teaching methods, teach students to use logic rather than rate memory, present materials in small units.
Some of the things that we have done are hands-on approaches, trying to use all of the senses, because they may have a better way of learning than just the reading part. Oral tests or oral assignments. A student may be able to comprehend very well if that text is read to him or her, or if they hear it on tape, they might be able to answer questions, but they just can't read it correctly because they're reversing the way that they see it. When it's reversed in their mind, then that's the reason why they're not reading correctly and they're having so many problems.
In conclusion, I hope you have learned what dyslexia is, what a teacher should look for with students that might have dyslexia, some accommodations, signs, and symptoms that students present with dyslexia.